If you want to sound more natural, more confident, and more like a native American English speaker, then stop memorizing grammar rules. Start using real everyday phrases like this. When Americans speak, they don't always use perfect textbook English. They use simple, short, and relaxed expressions. For example, instead of saying, "I am very tired," Americans say, "I'm beat," or "I'm wiped out." They don't say, "I do not know." They simply say, "No idea," or "Beats me." They don't say, "Please wait for a moment." They say, "Hang on," or "Give me a sec." Instead of, "I am leaving now," they naturally say, "I'm heading out," or "I'm taking off." Instead of, "It is not a big problem," they say, "No big deal," or "You're good." When something is amazing, they don't say, "It was extremely good." They say, "That was awesome," or "That was insane." When they agree with you, instead of saying, "I completely agree with you," they simply say, "Facts," or "You're right on." And when something is surprising, they don't say, "This is unbelievable." They say, "No way," or "You're kidding." Notice something? American English is shorter, faster, and more casual. It's not about sounding perfect. It's about sounding natural. So if you want to speak English like Americans, start copying the way they speak. Shadow their sentences. Repeat their tone. Repeat their rhythm. Repeat their expressions. Do it daily for 10 minutes. And I promise, your English will transform. Americans also use expressions that sound relaxed and friendly. And these expressions make conversations feel natural. For example, instead of saying, "I am going to sleep," they say, "I'm gonna crash," or "I'm calling it a night." Instead of saying, "I understand you," they say, "I feel you," or "I get you." And when they want to say something is easy, they don't say, "This is very simple." They say, "A piece of cake," or "Easy fix." When something is annoying, they won't say, "This is frustrating." They say, "This is driving me crazy," or "This is getting on my nerves." When they're excited, they say, "I'm pumped," or "I'm hyped." When they want to check on someone, they don't say, "Are you fine?" They say, "You good?" or "You all right?" And instead of saying, "Let us go," they say, "Let's roll," or "Let's hit it." When they want to encourage someone, they don't say, "You can do this." They say, "You've got this," or "Go for it." When something is boring, they say, "That's lame," or "That's dry." And when something is really funny, they don't say, "This is hilarious." They say, "I'm dead," or "I'm weak." When they like something a lot, they don't say, "I like it very much." They say, "I'm into it," or "That's my thing." And when they say goodbye, they often say, "Catch you later," or "See ya," or "Take care, man." Even if you're not a man, it's just an expression. America loves short, smooth, relaxed English. It's about sounding natural, not perfect. So the next time you speak, try replacing your long, formal sentences with simple, casual ones. You'll instantly sound more native, more confident, and more fluent. The secret is listen, copy, shadow, repeat. That's how Americans learn English too, by copying what they hear every day. Shadow these phrases with me. Use them in real conversations. And soon, people will ask you, "Are you from the US?" Americans also have a very unique way of reacting to situations. Their reactions are short, emotional, and often very expressive. For example, when something surprising happens, they don't say, "I am surprised." They say, "Seriously?" or "You're joking," or "No freaking way." When something goes wrong, they don't say, "This is a problem." They say, "Yikes," or "That's rough," or "That sucks." And when they want to calm someone down, they don't say, "Please relax." They say, "Chill out," or "Take it easy," or "You're good." If they are impressed, they won't say, "This is impressive." They say, "That's wild," or "That's crazy good," or simply, "Damn, When they mean wait, they might say, hold up, or one sec, or hang tight. When something ends well, instead of saying, everything turned out fine, they say, it worked out, or we're good, or all sorted. When they want to start a conversation, they don't say, hello, how are you? They say, what's up, or how's it going, or what are you up to? And when they want to say, I don't care, they don't say it directly. They say, whatever, or it is what it is, or no worries. When they want someone to be honest, instead of saying, please be honest with me, they say, real talk, or be straight with me, or hit me with it. If they want to show respect, they say, much respect, or I feel that, or props to you. When they want to say someone is very good at something, they don't say, you are very talented. They say, you're killing it, or you nailed it, or you're on fire. When something is extremely simple to understand, they say, pretty straightforward, or light work, or no-brainer. Notice how all of these are short, emotional, and easy to say. That's the heart of American English. It's not about long sentences. It's about rhythm, tone, and expression. If you want to sound like a native, start using phrases that match American energy. Relax your voice, reduce your long sentences, and speak with confidence, even if your grammar isn't perfect yet. Because Americans don't care about perfect grammar. They care about clarity, confidence, and vibe. Keep practicing these phrases every day. Use them in shadowing. Use them in your real conversations. And one day, you'll realize you no longer speak learner English. You speak real American English. Americans also use a lot of emotional fillers, small words that don't have a big meaning, but they make your English sound naturally American. For example, when they're thinking, instead of staying silent, they say, let me think, or hold on, give me a sec, or wait, what was I saying? When they want to show understanding, they don't say, I see. They say, gotcha, or fair enough, or makes sense. When they want to agree strongly, they don't say, I completely agree with you. They say, facts, or for real, or no doubt. When they want to soften their words, they say, like, kinda, or sort of, or I mean. These little things make the language sound relaxed and alive. When Americans want to show excitement about a plan, they say, I'm down, or I'm in, or let's do it. When they want more details, instead of saying, can you explain more? They say, give me the full story, or break it down for me, or what's the deal? When they talk about something unbelievable, they say, that blew my mind, or I can't wrap my head around it, or that's next level. When they want to express disappointment, instead of saying, this is disappointing, they say, that's a bummer, or that's tough, or I was really hoping for better. And when they tease each other, they say, don't play with me, or you're wild, or you're too much. Notice how all these phrases create emotion. American English is emotional English, full of feelings, energy, and reaction. When they want to emphasize a point, they don't say, it is very important. They say, trust me, or you have no idea, or listen up. When they want to say someone is ignoring them, they say, you're ghosting me, or you disappeared, or you've been Mia. Mia means missing in action. When they want to say someone is very busy, they say, I'm swamped, or I'm slammed, or I've got a lot on my plate. When they want to say they're tired, they say, I'm wiped, or I'm beat, or I'm running on empty. When something is impressive, they say, fire, or insane, or that goes hard. And when they want to hype someone up, they say, talk your talk, or own it, or you've got mad potential. The key is, don't try to sound perfect. Try to sound alive, connected, and expressive. Because American English is not only a language, it's a vibe, a rhythm, a feeling. Keep repeating these expressions. Shadow them. Use them. Slowly, your English will transform. People will hear you and think, "This person sounds native." And you'll smile, because you know you worked for it. Sentence by sentence. Phrase by phrase. Day by day. One more thing you need to understand about American English is this. Americans don't always say exactly what they mean. They often speak indirectly, casually, or with hidden meaning. For example, when an American says, "We should hang out sometime," it doesn't always mean they want to make a plan. It usually means, "It was nice talking to you. Maybe we'll meet again." When they say, "I'll think about it," it usually means, "No, but I don't want to say no directly." When they say, "That's interesting," depending on the tone, it can mean, "I don't agree, but okay." When they say, "Let me get back to you," it often means, "I need time," or "I don't know yet." When they say, "We'll see," it means, "Probably not." When they say, "Do you mind?" they are being polite, but they're actually giving you an instruction. When an American says, "Not bad," it can actually mean, "Pretty good." And when they say, "You're fine," it means, "No problem, don't worry." Another important thing, Americans love shortening their words. Instead of, "I am going to," they say, "I'm gonna." Instead of, "I want to," they say, "I wanna." Instead of, "Let me," they say, "Lemme." Instead of, "Did you," they say, "Didja." And instead of, "What are you doing?" they say, "What you're doing." These shortcuts make speech faster, smoother, more natural. And here's another big one. Americans use tone more than grammar. The way they say something is often more important than the words themselves. For example, the sentence "really" can mean 10 different things based on tone. Surprised, really, doubting, really, annoyed, really, impressed, really. Tone is everything. And finally, Americans express emotion through sound effects too. Ooh, annoyed, oof, sympathy, whoa, surprised, ahem, agreeing, huh, confused, sheesh, impressed, ooh, disgusted. These tiny sounds bring the conversation to life. So if you want to speak like Americans, feel the language, use the rhythm, use emotion, relax your voice, and stop trying to sound perfect. Because American English isn't perfect. It's personal. It's not formal. It's expressive. It's not about grammar. It's about connection. And the moment you stop translating in your mind and start feeling the language, you'll speak like a native. Not tomorrow, not next year, but step by step, phrase by phrase, shadow by shadow. You're becoming that speaker. And believe me, you're closer than you think. And here's something learners rarely talk about, but it's one of the biggest secrets of sounding American. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. Americans use their voice like a mood, a feeling, a wave. They stretch sounds, drop sounds, whisper some words, and punch others. For example, listen to this. Really? Same word, 3 different meanings. Really? Soft, rising, curious. Really? Flat, slow, disappointed. Really? High, sharp, shocked. Same spelling, same letters, different universe. That's why shadowing works. Because you're not memorizing grammar, you're absorbing sound. Another thing Americans do, they talk with emotion even in simple sentences. Instead of, "I don't know," they say, "I dunno." Falling tone, confused, tired. Instead of, "Maybe," they say, "Maybe," stretched and sure. Instead of, "Okay," they say, "Okay," rising, checking. Or, "Okay," falling, agreeing. Or, "Okay," short, annoyed. Emotion is everywhere, even in short reactions. Ooh, annoyed. Oof, sympathy. Sheesh, impressed. Ooh, disgust. Ahem, agreeing. Whoa, surprised. Huh, confused. These tiny sounds are like seasoning. They flavor the conversation. And here's something even deeper. Americans don't speak perfectly. They speak comfortably. They stop in the middle of sentences. They restart. They change direction. They talk in fragments. Wait, no, hold on. Yeah, that's what I meant. This is normal. Native English is messy, chaotic, relaxed, human. And once you understand this, you stop chasing perfect grammar and start chasing natural rhythm. Because American English is not a school subject. It's a feeling, a vibe, a flow. So here's my advice. Stop trying to sound correct. Start trying to sound alive. Drop your shoulders. Relax your jaw. Let the words move. Don't force them. Feel the sentence. Feel the tone. Feel the energy. Because every time you shadow, you're training your brain to step out of your language and step into a new voice. A voice that's confident, smooth, natural, and uniquely you. And maybe you don't realize it yet, but with every repetition, every phrase, every tiny improvement, you're getting closer. Closer to speaking freely. Closer to thinking in English. Closer to sounding like the people you watch in movies. Closer to becoming the speaker you imagine. Shadowing isn't magic, but it feels like magic when it finally clicks. And trust me, it will click. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, you'll open your mouth, and English will come out. Without effort, without fear, without overthinking. Just flow. And on that day, you'll look back at this moment and smile. Because this is where it started. This is where you started. And the best part? You're already on your way. There's one more truth about American English that almost nobody teaches. Americans don't speak to communicate information. They speak to communicate connection. When Americans talk, they're not just thinking, what should I say? They're also thinking, how should I sound? Tone matters. Energy matters. The feeling behind the words matters. And maybe you've noticed this. Americans add little phrases to make conversation softer, warmer, friendlier. Phrases like, you know, right, kinda, sorta, like, I mean, actually. These words don't carry meaning. They carry emotion. For example, instead of saying, can you help me? An American might say, hey, could you maybe help me real quick? Because the second one sounds gentler, friendlier, less direct. Or instead of saying, you're wrong, they say, I'm not sure that's totally right. Or, I see what you mean, but maybe. It's softness, it's warmth, it's culture. And here's something else. Americans love reaction sounds, not words, not sentences, just sounds. Op relief, excitement, emotion, understanding. These small sounds create big connection. And once you start using them, you'll notice something surprising. Your English stops feeling like a school subject and starts feeling like a personality. Because American English isn't flat. It's expressive, colorful, emotional. When Americans talk, they stretch sounds to show feeling. Cool, impressed, Nietzsche, happy, know why, shocked, why, annoyed, funny, giving up. The music in the voice is just as important as the words. And here's the secret most learners miss. Americans speak with rhythm, not logic, with flow, not grammar, with emotion, not rules. This is why shadowing works so well. Because you're not just copying pronunciation. You're copying the soul of the language. You're learning how to pause like a native, react like a native, stretch your words like a native, and breathe like a native. You're not memorizing English. You're becoming English. And listen, I know it takes time. I know it feels slow. I know some days are harder than others. But every shadowing session is rewiring your brain. Every repetition is building confidence. Every phrase is pulling you one step closer. Closer to speaking naturally. Closer to expressing yourself freely. Closer to sounding like the person you imagine in your mind. And believe me, you will get there. Because you're not just learning English anymore. You're living it. You're breathing it. You're feeling it. And the language is starting to feel like home. There's something else you need to understand. If you want to speak English like Americans, Americans don't speak with perfect sentences. They speak with moments, small moments, quick reactions, tiny expressions that don't follow any grammar book. Things like, Wait, hold on, what? No, no, no. Listen. Stop, stop, stop. You're kidding. Okay, okay. Let me think. Wow, just wow. This is how real people talk. Broken thoughts, half sentences, words that spill out naturally. And when you start shadowing these moments, you begin to sound less like a student and more like someone who actually lives the language. Another thing Americans do, they soften disagreement. They rarely say, I disagree. Instead, they say, I don't know about that. Maybe, but I'm not sure. I see your point, but, kinda, but not really. Yeah, but hear me out. This isn't grammar. This is culture. This is rhythm. This is connection. And if you listen closely, you'll realize something powerful. American English is full of small emotional signals, like, right, checking understanding, seeking agreement, honestly, sharing truth, actually, correcting softly, to be fair, balancing the idea, literally, intensifying emotion. These words don't add meaning, they add feeling, and feeling is what makes the language sound alive. Another thing you must learn, Americans rarely say exactly what they feel. They hide meaning inside tone. For example, that's great. Straight tone gives happy. Flat tone gives annoyed. High tone gives surprised. Same words, different world. Or, okay. Soft falling tone gives agreement. Slow rising tone gives doubt. Short sharp tone gives frustration. Again, same word, different emotion. You can't learn this in a book. You learn this by listening, by shadowing, by absorbing the music of the language. And here's the part most learners never realize. When you shadow American voices, you're not copying them. You're opening your own. You're discovering a new version of yourself, a more expressive version, a more confident version, a version that isn't afraid to speak. Because English isn't just a language. It becomes a personality, a more relaxed you, a more natural you, a more open you. And the moment you stop obsessing over mistakes and start playing with sounds, that's the moment your English transforms. That's the moment you finally feel the flow. And trust me, you will feel it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but one day, you'll speak English. Without fear, without hesitation, without thinking, just speaking, just expressing, just being yourself, in a new language. And on that day, you'll realize everything you've been doing, every repetition, every shadowing session, every phrase, every tiny improvement, it all mattered. It all worked. It all brought you here. And you'll finally say, wow, I sound natural. Because you will. There's one more layer to American English, a layer that goes beyond pronunciation, beyond rhythm, beyond emotion. It's the layer of flow, and flow is not something you learn. Flow is something you feel. When Americans speak, their sentences connect together, like waves in the ocean. One wave rises, the next wave follows, and the conversation moves, smoothly, naturally, effortlessly. Listen to this. So I was like, wait, what? And he goes, no, 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 that's not what I meant. And I'm standing there thinking, okay, but it is what you said. See how it moves? See how it breathes? This isn't grammar. This is life. Another thing Americans do, they don't rush their words. They let their sentences float. Even when they speak fast, the energy feels relaxed. This is why native English sounds smooth. Because Americans speak with their air. Not their tongue. They speak from their chest, not from their throat. They speak in curves, not in straight lines. Their words don't just go out, they flow out. And once you understand this, your English becomes something different. It becomes softer, more emotional, more natural. And here's the part learners never notice. Americans think in images, not in grammar. When they speak, they're not constructing perfect sentences. They're simply describing the picture in their mind. If they remember something funny, you hear it in their voice. If they remember something painful, you feel it through their silence. English becomes a window into their memories, their emotions, their thoughts. And the moment you start speaking like this, from pictures, from emotion, from feeling. Your English stops sounding learned and starts sounding lived. You stop sounding like someone trying to get every word right, and you start sounding like someone who is simply expressing life. And that is the moment everything changes. Because when you speak from emotion, your words flow naturally. When you speak with rhythm, people listen. When you speak with confidence, people connect. And the truth is, you don't need perfect grammar to sound natural. You don't need a perfect accent to sound confident. You don't need big vocabulary to sound expressive. You just need to bring your true voice into the language. And every time you shadow, every time you repeat, every time you practice, you're carving a new path in your brain, a path that leads straight to fluency. You may not feel it happening, but trust me, it is. With every repetition, you're becoming smoother. With every phrase, you're becoming more natural. With every day, you're becoming more you. In English, there's something nobody tells you about learning English or learning anything in life. You don't notice your progress until one day. You do. One day, a sentence that used to feel heavy suddenly feels light. A phrase that used to confuse you suddenly makes sense. A conversation that used to scare you suddenly feels normal. And that's when you realize you weren't stuck. You were growing silently. Every shadowing session, every mistake, every repetition, every moment you didn't give up, it was all building a new version of you. And that version is starting to wake up. You know what's funny? Fluency doesn't arrive with a big celebration. There's no moment where someone says, "Congratulations, you are now fluent." No, it arrives quietly, softly, naturally, in a moment when you're not thinking about English at all. Maybe you're watching a show, and suddenly you understand everything. Maybe you're in a conversation, and suddenly words come out effortlessly. Maybe you're speaking, and suddenly you hear yourself, sounding natural, and you stop for a second, and you think, wait, was that really me? Yes, it was you, the new you, the fluent you, the you you've been building, day after day, after day. And here's the truth. Fluency doesn't happen to lucky people. It happens to consistent people, people like you. Because every time you shadow a new sentence, you're teaching your brain a new melody. You're teaching your mouth a new rhythm. You're teaching your voice a new identity. And slowly, the language stops being foreign. It becomes familiar, comforting, part of you. And one day, when you least expect it, you'll realize you didn't just learn English. You became an English speaker. Before I end this session, I want you to remember something. You're not doing this for perfection. You're doing this for freedom. The freedom to express yourself. The freedom to understand others. The freedom to connect with the world. The freedom to become the person you always imagined. And trust me, you're on the right path. Every single word you repeat, every single phrase you shadow, every single mistake you correct, it's all shaping your future. A future where English is not something you fear, but something you own. A future where you speak clearly, confidently, naturally. A future where you don't translate, you feel the language. And listen, you don't need to rush. You don't need to compare. You don't need to doubt yourself. Just keep going, because fluency is not a dream. It's a direction, and you're already walking toward it every day. And if no one told you this before, let me be the one to say it. I'm proud of you for starting, for continuing, for not giving up. And remember, you're closer than you think, much closer. Just keep shadowing, keep speaking, keep believing. The voice you want, the fluency you want, the confidence you want, it's already inside you, waiting to come out. And step by step, word by word, shadow by shadow, you're bringing it to life. Take a moment to recognize what you achieved today. Every sentence you heard, every word you practiced, every effort you made, it all brings you one step closer to real fluency. Learning English is not about being perfect. It's about improving, understanding, and building confidence, little by little. And today, you did exactly that. If this session helped you, if you learned something new, or felt a little more confident, then stay with me on this journey. There is so much more to learn, so much more to discover, so much more progress waiting for you. So make sure to stay connected, subscribe, turn on the notifications, and join me again in the next lesson. Until then, keep practicing, keep speaking, and keep moving forward. Your progress is real, your growth is happening, and your fluency is closer than you think. All right, that's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me. I had fun. Take care, stay awesome, and I'll see you in the next one.